we were the only band of the whole festival that did anything for Michael Jackson that day.
That's cool.
Or that weekend.
That's cool.
And because of that, CNN did an interview with me because they were there looking for Michael Jackson stuff.
That's cool.
And so I ended up being like on CNN Worldwide.
That's right.
That day. And
But just a few moments ago, it was an American band called Rudy Vaughn.
Great, Rudy, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's Rudy Vaughn, who just before say 25,000 people here in London's Hyde Park.
So, welcome to the Twerk Ethic Show. I'm JT.
Cooley.
That's Cooley. We're a comedy podcast.
Yes.
We're also a YouTube channel, wouldn't you say?
I would say that.
And today is a very special day.
Today we have our very first guest on.
Our guest is also a singer, songwriter,
He is.
guitar player, piano player, dancer, entertainer, business owner,
Saxophonist.
saxophone. Yeah, that was like the main thing I wanted to say.
Yeah.
I would like to introduce our very first guest. Welcome to the Twerk Ethic Show, Rudy.
There we go.
I made it.
You made it.
We're sharing today.
And
By the way, I'm having a blast on your show right
thanks, man.
I wish I could do
I'm
this
starting to. I'm kidding, man. I'm kidding. This is fun. It's like, I don't know how you feel, but it's a different dynamic,
I bet. Yeah.
you know. But it feels the
for sure.
same.
Yeah.
It's the same identity. It's the same personality, but it's just
We just have another asshole here. I'm kidding. Nobody in this room is an asshole.
yes.
And
But we all
I'm
three
sorry.
have.
Sorry for saying it. We all three have one.
Yeah.
I had two, but I had one removed.
Oh, really?
Spackle can do a lot of things.
And now it's just called the last hole.
The last hole.
This is the last hole. Hey!
The last hole, son. Well, all right.
Took me a second to figure out what you were doing.
What did you do? I missed it.
He's doing a Dave Matthews song.
Yeah. And he was like, after that one, it's the last stop. It's like, this is the last stop. Hey!
Okay. All right.
And then you did Last Hole Sun.
Yes.
I got nothing.
Yeah.
That's okay. I think the Dave Matthews is a good transition to the London trip.
Sure.
Again, you have to understand, I mostly know Nathan's perspective of everything you've ever done.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's nice having you to hear, because like even the part of the wreck that you just talked about, there's a lot of that stuff I don't think I've ever heard.
Right.
So that was kind of interesting to know. But I know about the
I was
London.
kind of out of it that day.
I know about the London trip.
Wasn't myself.
Yeah, you should have been better. Should have been better. I know about the London trip. I know you guys won a competition to go there. We've talked about that on the show.
Yeah.
We've talked about the Shane story.
Yeah. White Wolf.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What's up, White Wolf?
Yeah.
Nice to see you.
Dude, here's the new, this is White Wolf right here.
White Wolf commented on your picture and called you a legend. And then Shannon said,
"Who's
"Never
that?"
heard of the guy?" It's like, that was pretty.
Dude, props to White Wolf for doing, is he doing the whole Happy Trail right now?
I have no idea.
He's been doing it for like months
Yeah.
now.
He's been out there for months.
Dude, this is White Wolf right here.
White Wolf.
Raise him up.
So what would you like? In other words, I've heard it all from Nate.
Yeah.
What is, if someone asks you about the trip, how do you describe it?
Yeah, it can be a long story, but I'll try to zip through it. Basically, we started.
We're out of time.
God, we got like 20 minutes left. It's like
The whole chip.
he's like nowhere near out of time. Anyway,
Right, sorry.
In 2008, I started playing with my friend Mike Hankins at a small little wine bar.
okay.
And then Nathan quickly jumped in. We just started doing covers
So,
called Picasso's. In about
The covers were called Picasso's.
Yeah.
every one of them.
every one of them.
All right,
and this
guys.
next one is called Picasso. It's a work of art, my friend. We actually had that place.
That was good.
We actually had that place for what it was, kind of like on point. Like we had a lot of people still to this day. It's been 10 years more. say, man, remember when y'all used to play Picasso's? It kind of became the first place that people from 12 Stone Church were going to that was not at the church.
Yeah.
And kind of like going, like, I'll have a glass of wine, I'll have a beer and not feel bad about it. Like we're just being real, having a good time, no shenanigans, but it's a nice spot. So for about 6 to 9 months, we played that almost every week. We had Dustin, and we had Sam, we had Emerson, White Wolf.
So OG A-Town.
The OG original A-Town crew come.
Yep.
And we played a few other gigs, but that was really our house gig. We got a recommendation from some folks at Hard Rock to do the contest Battle of the Bands, which was Hard Rock's first year to ever do this. And basically what it was it was like, I think so. I think so. It was either their first or their second year, but it was definitely like one of those two. And basically it was like, I think it was 120 bands in the nation were like on the first roster. And then that got whittled down to like 20. And then the 20 got videos like of their winning show, you know.
Yeah.
And then those got voted on by a celebrity panel, which Run DMC I think was one of them, and some other people.
Wow.
And then
Guitars for E Street Band.
oh yeah, guitars for E Street Band.
His name is Bruce Springsteen.
Bruce
It
Springsteen.
was the dude with the...
What was it? Who? Bruce Autumnstein. That's what it was. Autumnstein. Anyway.
Yeah, it's the dude with the...
With the headband.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember.
Jimmy Ray Vaughan. I think
Stevie Ray Vaughan?
I think it's his brother.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah, I think so.
That's right. I forgot about that. I knew he was famous with somebody.
Yeah, so basically there was a celebrity panel
Fact checker.
that took it from 20 to 5. And that was the thing we had no control over, because it was just like, if they liked us, they liked us. And I remember when we made it to the top 20, we were pumped, but I was like, dude, but if we get voted by the celebrity panel to be on top 5, I think we could win. By the way, you should put in your show that we do have a 30-minute complete documentary on this entire experience. Did you know that?
You just put it in the show
I just put it in the show.
right now. I did not know that.
So select the link provided. Yeah, Rhett Thompson and I produced a 30-minute, 35-minute documentary of the entire experience.
That's incredible.
You should watch it. It's actually kind of fun to watch,
You know what?
because you know a lot of stuff.
Now that you said that, I remember some point somewhere in some piece of my life, I remember someone saying, I watched the documentary of Rudy.
Really?
Might have been Ryan Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
He might have told me that.
That's a lot more of the details, and sort of like you can see us 10, 15 years ago, like, our young whippersnapper faces. But basically, we got to the top 5, and then the top 5 had to be won out by voting. And at that point, we pulled all the stops, everyone in town. Yeah. We used 12 Stone. We used North Point. We used everybody that we knew, blowing it up. And we were actually sort of found out later that because we were battling first and second place, kept bouncing back and forth. We found out later that second place was actually making up email addresses and like kind of cheating. So we were legit and actually won it out.
That's awesome.
And then we went to London, and we were on a 3-day bill. Like 100,000 people come to the main part of the night. So the 3 main attractions were Killers, Neil Young, and then Bruce Springsteen.
The Killers. They were not murderers.
Dude, that was the first time I ever heard the Killers, too.
So good.
Oh, my gosh. And like, everybody in London knew every lyric of the Killers. I was just like, how do you know all these songs? 'Cause I had heard them, but like I just wasn't familiar with that familiar with them.
Yeah.
So they were just like they were screaming them out. So
It is like one of the biggest events of like
in the world.
Hyde Park. London.
No, I know, because I actually one of my favorite clips of all time is Bruce Springsteen and Paul McCartney playing I Saw Her Standing There.
We don't want to make no big deal out of it, but I've been waiting about 50 years.
And I mean, it's like literally, it gives me chills. Like I feel like a kid. Like I watched this a month ago, and I've seen it before, but I watched it a month ago. Probably the 5th time I've seen it. Again, I felt like I was 5 years old watching music again for the first time.
Yeah, man.
Because like you said, because the event there's so much intense adrenaline, and like it's such a big deal for everyone there, including Bruce Springsteen and Paul McCartney.
Yeah, it can't not be.
I kept wondering, I'm like, I wonder if it was the same show.
Paul McCartney wasn't at this show.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah. But I
He was
mean,
with Neil Young though.
he came out with Neil Young.
His very last song, and old White Wolf was standing backstage, and he was like, "There goes Paul McCartney, just right beside me."
Yeah,
When to go sing, and I had left because, I mean, I'm not the biggest Neil Young fan, and plus I just like, I sat there through like most of his show, and I was just like, okay, and then I went back to the hotel, and then I see Shane, and I was just like, how'd you like that show? He's like, oh man, did you see Paul? I was like, oh, Paul, what? So then I learned that they were friends, and they sang together, and I missed it. But, oh well.
I would have died if I got to see Bruce Springsteen,
Yeah.
or Paul McCartney, or the Killers. Honestly, I actually used to have a Blu-ray of the Killers. It was like they are phenomenal live.
So good.
But I didn't get into Bruce Springsteen until later in life. But I adore him now.
That show got it for me. That
Really?
changed my perspective of him. I saw him play live like that, 3 hours. He's 70 years old or whatever, and I was like, that guy, he's everything that they say he is.
And he is the quintessential rock star.
The show, the Killers show that you have on DVD, was basically the same time that they were out there for Hyde Park.
Oh, that makes sense. Because the Royal Albert Hall or whatever.
Yep.
Bruce is like, it's actually me and my wife's favorite two artists. Boy, we've gotten really middle class fancy. Is Billy Joel and Bruce Springsteen. I mean, it's just I just can't. It's like Frank Sinatra. It's like I can't get tired of it. Like I know a bunch of really, really cool obscure artists, just like you do, but like Bruce and Billy Joel and Frank Sinatra and these people like this, it's like I can't get tired of this music.
Right.
It's just always good.
I mean, dude, there's a reason.
Yeah.
There's a reason everybody knows about him. It was a good show, man. It was really cool. It was fun to be a part of that. Oh, another fun fact about that show for us is that was the week that Michael Jackson died.
That's right.
Yeah.
And us as a group were like on the streets of London, and like somebody like literally pulls up on the streets and is like, dude, Michael Jackson just died. And we had already worked out Beat It with Shane playing the solo behind his back.
Oh, yeah.
So we actually decided to put that one on the stage. And what was kind of cool is we were the only band of the whole festival that did anything for Michael Jackson that day.
That's cool.
Or that weekend.
That's cool.
And because of that, CNN did an interview with me because they were there looking for Michael Jackson stuff.
That's cool.
And so I ended up being like on CNN Worldwide.
That's right.
That day. And
But just a few moments ago, it was an American band called Rudy Vaughn, and they had a couple songs. They have the second one on today, and they ended with Beat It. And I have with me Rudy Vaughn. Bit of a risk to do a Michael Jackson song, but you went for it anyway.
we went for it anyway. We figured, why not? It's Michael Jackson. He's one of the greatest pop icons, rock icons of all time. Just went for it.
And you hadn't planned on that, so was it in your repertoire, or did you just decide we better start learning some more Michael Jackson?
Actually, believe it or not, we had it planned, and then we took it off the bill. And when we were walking through the streets of London a couple of days ago, we were told that Michael Jackson was dead, and we actually decided to put it back on the bill. Figured it would be proper.
No, you're a fan, but can you also say he was an influence?
I definitely would say he's an influence. A lot of people that I've listened to are influences, but Michael Jackson has influenced my influences. Yeah. He is the alpha of music, so to speak, in the last 20 years. Everybody who listens to music has been influenced by him.
Great. Rudy, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
That's Rudy Vaughn, who just before say 25,000 people here in London's Hyde Park.
It's cool. That's pretty amazing.
It's fun, right? Like,
But the more important question, we've already talked about this before. How was the pulled pork sandwich from Hard Rock?
There's only one word: scrum true lesson.
There's also another word: free.
Yeah. I just remember the pulled pork sandwich being $12 and being very good.
Them giving us menus,
No price tags.
no price tags,
Literally
whatsoever, and
priceless.
they're just like,
It's like being on a Carnival cruise where you're just like, I'll have another lobster plate.
Yeah.
It's like
pretty
being
much.
on a Carnival cruise with Bruce Springsteen, the Killers, Neil Young, and Paul McCartney.
So basically, not a Carnival cruise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're not. It's like a Carnival cruise where you're with that many celebrities. You're not on the water.
Right.
You are a part of land that is thousands of years old,
In a field.
And you get to be a rock star too.
and you get to be a rock star too,
That's true.
and eat the sandwich.
You guys are brilliant with this show
Thank you, man.
because you have figured out a way to hang out, drink whiskey, talk about whatever you want to talk about, and potentially monetize it someday.
Come on.
That's,
We got to stop paying you $50,000.
Yeah.
But after we,
We ain't gonna
it's
make
an
nothing.
investment that will come back.
You know what's funny? I just watched the obviously Conan's show's over. Our last episode was all about that. Have you seen the bit that they do where he realizes that HBO Max is a pyramid scheme?
Oh, yeah.
My God, dude. They like come out and there's a fake HBO executive.
What's that guy's name? He's like on the CarMax video.
It's something like John
Super-
Daly or
Andy Daly.
something like
super dry humor, but super funny. at the
super
same
fun.
time.
But he faked being an HBO executive and he draws all this thing out. So clear it's a pyramid scheme. If like Conan can get enough shows, then he will get his show published. And then Conan was like, well, this sounds really sketchy. Like, how do I do this? And he's like, well, you give us your credit card and we're just going to run $10,000 for incidentals. He's like, wait, I pay you for my show? He's like, I thought you guys paid me to do the show. And the guy's like, that's a very common misconception. It's a very common misconception. But anyway, what you were saying reminded me. It's like, we have to pay you,
To do your show.
to do our show. But that dude's are you a huge fan of Conan? I feel like you are.
So here's the thing. That's actually an extremely interesting question. I used to be diehard Conan fan. When he had,
I knew this, by the way. I
I
felt
used to.
it.
So you remember the trumpet at the end?
Yes.
Like, he would just hold.
Yeah.
I used to be like just hype running around the house during that part, singing that note like with it, and then do the jump. I mean, I was like all about some Conan.
Yeah.
And when he got the show pulled, I was like pretty heartbroken for him. But then I saw that documentary, Conan Can't Stop,
Yeah.
and I actually didn't like him that much after that.
Really?
Yeah, I kind of was like, man, is this guy a jerk? Like, I don't think he is. I think he's probably, like anyone else. But
Yeah.
I was like, man, like it kind of like it was like the "Don't Meet Your Heroes" thing.
Yeah.
That documentary specifically for me was like, I don't dislike him, but I'm just not like drinking the Conan Kool-Aid quite as much as I was.
Yeah.
And then I kind of got on the Fallon
Yeah.
train because I just felt like I got Fallon's niceness a little bit.
I think Conan was just super bitter after that. You know,
Truly.
so, I mean,
truly.
I mean, I don't blame him for all that, any of that anyway. But just to go through all that, just to have the Tonight Show for just months.
Oh, dude.
And that was his goal, is to have the Tonight Show. And he had it only for 8 months, I think. 7 or 8 months.
Well, I was a fan
Heartbroken.
of Conan in the early 2000s because we talked about this last episode. It was shocking.
The future, Conan?
That's right, contractual friend. Let us all look to the future. All the way to the year 2000.
Still hilarious.
It was shocking how many good, and what I mean by good, it's like bands that were popular with kids that were cool. So not mainstream, but also not like indie band. Like it's like, oh my God, Conan, you know who this band is?
right.
And the band would be on there, and like one of the bands was Finch, and they were a screamo band, but like they were really cool in my circle. Like you, it was like
You had to know.
you
what's
had,
up.
yeah.
Right.
And I was like, he's got Finch on his show, and he'd have all these like really cool bands. So I was a really big fan in the early 2000s, and his sense of humor. This is why I said I figured you were a fan.
Oh yeah,
Is
I'm
'cause,
still
like,
a fan. Yeah.
I was like, and then I stopped being his thing because I just didn't like the TBS show because it did feel like a FU to everybody else, which I get it.
Exactly.
I totally get it. Yeah. I actually don't even blame him for doing it.
Right.
I just didn't really want to be a part of it. He obviously lost that after a while. Like he's not obviously not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
But then here's where I really started becoming a huge fan of him again. It's his podcast.
I haven't seen it.
Dude, his podcast
so
is called Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. And the reason I like it is it's funny, but like he'll get serious. And he'll be like, I have a problem. Like, this huge desire for attention. That's what drives me. And you're like, oh my God, this guy. Like, and so he has the best guest ever. And I think he was meant for podcasting. Like, because if you think about it, he's such a good host or whatever. But that's what made me fall in love with him again was this podcast. And he's doing it right now.
I think that's why he's doing the HBO Max thing now because he'll have more time to do the podcasting.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, the joke. Did you hear the joke? He was like, "All right, guys, I'm off to learn the names of my kids."
right.
It's like, and then Andy was like, because no, Conan looks at him. He goes, "Is it Ben?" And Andy was like, "You always just referred to them as boy and girl." But he's like, all jokes aside, I really am very excited to spend time with my family because I would imagine doing a podcast, doing a not daily HBO Max thing.
Yeah,
he's probably going to have a lot more time. And the dude, come on, he's got enough money. It can't be financial.
Right.
Now it's got to be, what are you interested in doing?
Plus he's in his 50s, and I think his kids are like at the age where they're like, well, I guess they're teenagers, right?
Yeah.
Because they're pretty old now. So he's just like, now that they're cool and, let's have a convo because you can talk back, you know? So
he said his kids, they ain't having it. Like they don't think he's funny at all. And, but they're teenagers,
One time I met Max Weinberg.
No, you did not.
Yeah. I was in Rockefeller Center. I was totally just a total nerd for just like 1 second with this guy. But for those of you who don't know, Max Weinberg's the drummer for Conan O'Brien back then.
Yeah.
But also Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
And I've gone to New York several times. And
Before you continue, have you seen the clip with Max Weinberg doing? It's on Conan, but he's doing the drum. What is that called? What would you call that? It's like all the hits for Max Weinberg.
Yeah. Did you tell me about that? Somebody told me. It's like he's barely playing at all because he's such a minimalistic drummer.
Yeah.
And it's just drums. But it's the most boring parts.
I think it's like all the intros, and he's like.
It is ironic. He is such a great drummer, but those songs are so basic.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm down in Rockefeller Plaza, which is basically 30 Rock, where they film all these shows. Yeah. I'm in the basement where they just have like shops and Starbucks and stuff. And as close as you are to me, like he just walks right up.
Oh my gosh.
And I go, and that was at the peak of my like watching Conan O'Brien show every weekend or every night. I go, Max, and he goes, hey man, like. Hey man. I was just such a dork for that 1 second. Max, like so happy.
What if you would what would you have done if you went Max and he went Rudy? You probably would.
I would have just stared at him like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, anyway. Hello, my name is Rudy.
Dude, it was so bad. Hey man.
Is that all that happened?
That's literally all that.
Oh, that's awesome.
I thought that was just the intro.
No. That's the whole story.
That's fantastic.
You want to go to the top of the rock and talk?
You want to go play drums together, buddy?
Hey, Max, you remember
when you played drums for Bruce?
Yeah. That was awesome.
Oh, my God.
Thanks, man.
Well, I'm not going to play Rushmore yet. I want to do one thing before we get to Rushmore. I'd like to hear you tell this story, but Nathan told me a story about your dad had a YouTube video go viral, and his response was pretty dang funny to me. So,
all right.
Yeah.
So my dad's a big classic car guy.
Yeah.
He has his literally his first car, he still has it. It's in showroom condition. It's a 65 Impala 327. Beautiful. And he's rebuilt it and the whole deal. I remember as a kid literally being like, you can do anything, but you can't look at this car, can't touch it. It was just like sacred, right? But if he takes the headers off of it, it sounds like a freaking stock car. Like it's like raw. I mean, it's amazing. So he goes years ago. This must have been 15 years ago, like right when he first moved to Georgia. He goes into like a neighborhood, like a suburban neighborhood, pulls the headers off of this thing. He has my kid brother riding around with him filming, and he just starts lighting up the neighborhood, just like not lighting it up in a disrespectful way, but just going, man, like down the streets blasting. And this neighbor of his comes out and just starts to get like mad and like yelling at him. And then he basically like steps out. My dad politely steps out and tries to go out and reason with him. But the whole time the camera's on, watching the neighbor and my dad interact. And then the neighbor eventually realizes, oh, okay, this is Rod, my dad. Like, all right, well, just, people live here, calm down a little bit. So my dad releases this like long video of the whole thing. And this incident with the neighbor is only like a small part of it. But the internet ate this neighbor up to the point where like the comments are like, I could never repeat the comments.
Yeah.
But it's like all the car lovers in the world are just going like, this dude,
Yeah.
And my dad never told the neighbor that he had posted it. And then like one day we're sitting around Thanksgiving or whatever. My dad's like, yeah, I'm almost at like 1 million hits. I'm like, what? 1 million hits on what? What are you talking about? Oh yeah, you didn't know I had this like viral video happening? And he never monetized it. He never told anyone about it. He just let it sit out there. And he's over 1 million. I think he's like close to 2 million hits at this point.
Wow.
He doesn't even have his login information for the YouTube to collect royalties on. But he's like, I don't want to get in trouble with it. I don't want to stir a pot. And I'm like, Dad.
Did you ever get monetized on YouTube?
I mean, next to nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, now they have different rules. So now you have to have 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
And you have to have 4,000 hours of views in the past year, which it makes sense. So like YouTube's trying to build a TV competitor. And so like if you go look at our videos right now, which, hey, if you're listening in the future,
Smash that subscribe button.
Yeah.
He knows.
What is this?
Ding, 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 ding. But if you're listening not in the future, you go look at our videos. No one's watching this, right? But
they will.
In the future, they absolutely will. But what YouTube wants to see is consistency over a long time. So like it may be 18 months or so, right? Because they want to see that, okay, these guys are releasing videos multiple times every week. This is a reliable revenue stream.
Right.
Does that kind of change the game a little bit?
Because it used to be like one random flash in the pan.
Yeah. They're basically building YouTube to be better for creators.
Yeah.
And so like if you're a true creator who's not going to give up and you've proven that you'll just keep doing this no matter who's watching, they're going to reward you, but it's going to take a while.
Yeah.
This is not a viral place anymore, which I
feels like a healthy pivot.
It feels like a very healthy pivot. Yeah. It can be hard. I can be honest with you when you're like, you put all this work into it and you're like, oh, cool, 3 people watch this. Thank you, 3 people. Oh, dang it.
That was
one
me.
One of those was me. And the other one was Nathan. No, but at the same time, what it makes you do is like really fall in love with your product.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, I don't really care who's watching. I'm having so much fun.
That's one of the things that I have to salute about you guys. Honestly, I was having a conversation this week about basically doing what you love, kind of like who cares who watches it, how many people watch it, releasing the filters, because that's what people want anyway.
Yeah.
Like if they're going to watch it, they're going to watch it. But don't you want to like just do it?
Yeah.
And like let it be what it is. And if the world loves it, then that's great. But I'd hate to be like defining yourself by if I don't have this many views, I'm not happy. Like
sure. Yeah.
I envy that about you guys. I think it's awesome. I think it's
it took a long time to find that because I didn't know what it was. And then when we started doing it, I was like, oh my God, this is what it was. This is it.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to hang here for as long as it takes, honestly, because we actually have fun doing this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like doing this with you today is like, it's a blast because like you said, it really is. We're just hanging out. And by the way, when we turn the cameras off,
we're still hanging out.
We're going to go hang out.
Yeah.
Like, and it's.
I can't, but I mean, I understand the theory of what you're saying.
Yeah, I understand.
In fact, I'm just kidding.
I knew it.
Let's do a little bit of Rushmore.
For the record, I feel like if Rushmore, I think Rushmore could be like your top 10. And if it does, I just want to go on record to say that I was an early believer. Okay.
So when you say
You were on the record, sir.
you mean top 10 bits or top 10?
Like David Letterman, top 10. It's like your routine.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Like every show, you throw a Rushmore in. I'm not saying maybe that's not possible.
Yeah.
But maybe once a week, maybe once a month, some sort of.
I appreciate.
I think it's
that.
fun. I think it's
that's
fun.
good. That's good feedback. Yep. Well, today,
Which sounds like this.
Somebody just dropped the needle in at that moment right there. Just a bunch of.
yeah. All right. So before the show, we were discussing. We have two choices. We have influential albums, and we have comedians, or we have comedy movies.
I say albums.
I do too. How do you feel, buddy?
I already got that list. The other ones would take me time.
All right. So for those who are, this is their first Rushmore.
Comedians. Let's do comedians.
Think of Mount Rushmore, and there are 4 people.
Right.
So it's like, they can be at the top of your list.
Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, but you can only decide to carve 4 things into the mountain. It's going to take you a long time.
Yeah.
4 albums that were influential to you. Well, let me ask you this, Rudy. Would you say influential?
Yeah, ask away.
Influential.
What you need?
I'm gonna get to it.
Let's spit it out.
I'm gonna get to it. Influential to you as a musician, or influential to you as a music lover? Because I think they're 2 different things.
I'm gonna go. Whatever one is more important.
Nathan, what's more important?
No, I'm saying like it's both of those things. Like some albums, you were musically.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay,
it's both of those things together
so
into
just
one.
Most
position.
influential.
Most influential, like generally.
Okay, all right, cool.
Musically
I like
or life, or anything.
I like that. Okay, well, I'm not going to go first because I haven't really generated my list. But Rudy, would you like to go first? Nathan, would you like to go first?
Are we doing this in random order? Or is Mount Rushmore random anyway? Because you have your top 4.
I think once you get to this top level, there's no way to really go like this.
I agree.
Because it's like there's too much apples and oranges.
Yeah, for sure. Guests go first.
Guests go first.
All right. So actually, I did a similar exercise with Nathan. I think we were with my family maybe. And I asked, we were talking about.
Oh, that's right.
And here's where my huge compliment to Nathan. Because I had a list of albums. And actually, we know what it was my birthday, and he was there, and we were going around, and everyone tried to guess what your top 5 were. And everyone who knows me really well guessed a lot of really great answers. And Nathan threw a record in there, and I was like, "Oh no, you're right. That's actually one of my top." He knew me so well that he actually told me what one of my top Rushmores was.
Was it Dave Matthews?
No, that is one of them technically, but like
There's a Dave in there.
But it was actually GRP All Star Big Band, all blues record. Because what it is that's an obscure record. Most people won't know that record. It's like they don't even have it on vinyl. It's like a CD from the 90s. But it was like my OG saxophone mecca.
Interesting.
Record. It's all these great saxophone players and piano players and like the best drummers, the best bass players, everyone who's awesome in that time was on this record in a big band. And so that's on my list. That's number 1. But I just wanted to throw the shout out to Nathan.
That you actually guessed that?
He
Nathan?
guessed that at a party, when I was like, I had forgotten about that record, and then when he said it, I was like, Eureka! You were right. You know me so well.
It was actually me against
my brothers.
Your brothers and your dad.
And none of them knew that. So I think that's really cool. Yeah. So that's the first one, GRP All-Star Big Band. Unfortunately, I'm going to cheat and tie 2 different Dave Matthews Band records, fine. Crash and Before These Crowded Streets.
Okay.
To me, I literally would come home from school every single day and like play drums along with them with headphones on. And
which record, I know both of you know, which is the record where he does the bell and the hi-hat thing?
Yeah, it's
Drive In, Drive Out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What album is that?
That's Crash.
Crash.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's some gems on both of those. I know that like I don't always love saying Dave Matthews is one of my top because I think that there's a shtick with him.
Okay, let me see
Please.
if I can get there.
Yeah.
All right, I had this thing with college football.
Yeah,
I think that as you grow up, especially when you're in high school, you do this thing where you stop liking interests because of people you don't like. So there were people that I knew in high school that were complete D-bags, and they loved college football.
Yes.
So I just completely was like, I don't like college football.
Because you do.
I'm not going to be that guy. Right? And the same thing happened. And by the way, later in life, I found out that Nathan loved college football. And now college football is like my favorite thing on earth. I just had to, the right kind of person had to show me you don't have to be a D-bag.
I'm not the fan that you hated.
Yeah. But then with Dave Matthews, again, there were a couple people I knew in high school that it was like, oh yeah, man,
they just jam,
man. They're just a jam band, man. And I'm like, I hate you, so I don't ever want to listen to this band. But then again, Nathan got me into Dave Matthews, and I'm like, this band is absolutely wonderful. Yeah. But so you basically helped me dislike people I have or you've made me like people I have disliked for so long.
That's a fantastic comparison because that's exactly what I was trying to say without saying it. Basically, there's just a lot of bleepity bleeps that talk about
bleepity bleeps
that talk about Dave Matthews in such a like one-dimensional way.
Yeah.
And I think that it makes sense because it's like, of course, you're going to appeal to all kinds of people when you're that. I mean, he was selling out 3 nights in a row everywhere he went.
Huge.
There, but from a musician standpoint, there were things going on inside there that I was like picking up on as a teenager, just getting into music.
Yeah.
And that was like what was happening.
Yeah.
You know what was interesting about Dave Matthews? It's like when he kind of got me back into Dave Matthews, I was listening to Dave Matthews and I was like, God, this drummer. I mean, I knew his name, but I would say, man, this drummer reminds me of something.
Oh, yeah, I know this.
And I was like, it's Nathan.
Right.
The Dave Matthews drummer reminds me of Nathan.
Yep.
And it took me a while. I'm like, God, there's a lot of these hi-hat fills and these I'm like, who is this? Who's this? I'm like, it's Nathan.
Yep. Yeah.
And I went to Nathan. I'm like, dude, did you take a lot from this guy? He's like, oh, pretty much everything. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me too. I mean, I'm not a drummer like as a primary instrument, but like, same.
Oh, I should have put down your intro. I forgot you drummed.
Oh yeah.
You're a drummist. Oh, yeah. You're also I should have said pianist, which is a piano player, you sick freaks.
Giant pianist.
Giant pianist. Healthy pianist. All right.
Number 3, this is an interesting one. U2, Pop Mart. So
Pop Mart.
Yeah, Pop Mart is a pretty obscure mid-90s U2 record. It was probably, to many U2 fans, considered one of the worst records. However, it was my intro to U2. And it was the moment when I got introduced to that record specifically was the moment that I transitioned to become a singer, because I saw what was happening. I was actually watching the Pop Mart tour movie video that they have out. It's like 120,000 people in Mexico City, and like I was just in my college dorm as a freshman, saxophone major, playing all these jazzy things that were just like, I was going to be a good musician with this, but I was connecting to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I see this video, Pop Mart tour. It's huge, and he's kind of doing things that I'm like, I can do what he's doing vocally. You know, I mean, that's not the only thing going on, but I was just like, man, this is where it's at.
Yeah.
It was a complete paradigm shift for me. So the Pop Mart tour, U2, I love all the U2 stuff, and I've had out of body experiences, and I actually got to touch Bono's hand one time.
And they truly invented praise and worship music.
I mean, dude, let's just be honest. The Edge created the guitar sound. That's
absolutely
that is, yeah. So that's number 3, and then I'll throw in the. I'm really struggling on the last 2, but I'm going to actually throw a little bit of a Hail Mary and say, for the sake of this podcast, James Taylor Greatest Hits.
Interesting. I have that record,
and the reason is because it has been
Mexico.
The sound so sweet and the sun sinking low.
Oh, I love
dude,
that song.
That record is on repeat at our house for the whole first 4 years of our marriage.
That's amazing.
So it's a recent like soundtrack of life.
Yeah.
We put Gorilla record on, we put all of his stuff on, and I kind of have to say that it's a windfall from Chris Morgan.
Yeah.
Chris Morgan is...
It's funny you say that because I think of Chris Morgan a lot when I listen to James Taylor.
You talk about Carter Beauford being a drum influence to Nathan. You know, it's the same thing with the old JT. We're actually going to see JT with Chris in August.
That's amazing.
So yeah, I'm gonna throw him on the 4th and final Rushmore because of its significance in my current life. So
I love it, man.
I like it.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah. Well, Nate, you want to go next?
Sure.
By the way, that was kind of cool. Just I would have never guessed any of those for you.
Yeah.
So that's like pretty interesting. Yeah. You will probably never guess mine either. Maybe one, but Carly Rae Jepsen for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Kelly Clarkson.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no in particular order.
You want to clear your throat?
Yeah. I just did. There we go. One of the early influences, I'm going to go back in the day, Mr. Robert Sweet, drummer for Stryper. Big influence. Found them by just total accident. Me and Dad were at a youth camp. Dad would always lead music for it, and some summers he would take me, then he'd take my brother when we were kids, we'd go back and forth or whatever. And then one year he took me, and these guys were just practicing during the day, and they put in a tape of Stryper. And it was just, I had never heard this before, and I was just like, what in the world? And it was if you know Stryper, it's definitely an 80s hair band. And they were a Christian band. Well, still are. But so they were playing it, and I was like, man, my dad's going to be upset them playing this because I didn't know who they were. So they were like, I was like, Dad, they're playing this tape, and I think it's called Stripper.
Stripper.
And they were like, oh, Stryper. That's funny. And I was like, oh, wait, you're not mad at them? He's like, no, that's a Christian metal band. And I was like, oh, really? And I was just like, I was looking for like the new thing back in the day too, because I was the CCM kid, listening to Michael W. Smith, Amy Grant, Stephen Curtis Chapman, SC Squared. But it was like, I was just always looking for something new because I was like, I want to hear some rock and roll,
Yeah.
And so that was them. And so I was like, I started listening to them over and over again. Put their tape in my jam box, turn it up real loud, and just play to it in my living room.
That's awesome.
Mom loved it.
Dude, just to jump off that, it's fun to be having a 10-year or more music relationship with Nathan, to see him flex that muscle.
For sure.
Because, dude, especially when he had long hair, freaking wow. Like, it was just be...
Dude, we have to, by the way, we found this on your YouTube channel. We have to post the freaking him singing off key for Adele.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's right.
So freaking fun.
Another one. Yeah, this album was like a game changer. And forgetting the name of it. There it is. A rush of blood to the head.
Oh, well, come on now.
Monsieur Coldplay, which was, I think that was their second album, right?
I'll tell you this. Coldplay, I was late to the game.
Yeah.
So not this album.
Right.
But when they, what's the album that Fix You was on?
Oh.
X and Y, maybe?
I think it was X and Y. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember being in the theater. You've heard this story. We were in a dollar theater, me and my friend, and it was You, Me, and Dupree, and they started playing The Bridge to Fix You. And I'm not kidding you. I was stopped in my tracks. I'd never heard something so beautiful in my life. And it led up to this really romantic scene, and my friend just did a fake fart noise, and it was me, him, and 2 other people in the movie theater. And it's like this build up, and it gets super like romantic or whatever, and then you just like, and man, you talking about laugh. I laughed so freaking hard. But I just remember that's the first time I heard that song. I was like, I looked at him, I was like, dude, who is this? He goes, dude, this is Coldplay. I was like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
Not to interject, I had no Coldplay on here. That was my runner-up. Coldplay is my favorite band. I'm just throwing that out there.
Dude, that's respect.
No contest.
Respect.
Yeah. So,
they're unbelievable.
Wasn't on the thing.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I would have gotten mad if somebody farted in.
It was so
because I would have been like, it's so funny, but you just screwed up.
No. So he didn't fart during the song. Okay. It's like after the song, they're on the porch.
Okay.
And it's completely quiet.
Okay.
And they're about to kiss.
Oh, yeah, I was about to say.
And as they're kissing, he freaking makes a fart noise, and I lose it. Chris,
nice.
Legendary move.
Right?
Go ahead. So, Coldplay. That just is my Coldplay thing.
Yeah.
Cheeseburgers. green cheeseburgers.
All right, Nathan. Continue
Crunchy.
your Rushmore.
Okay. By the way,
go to the third one, I guess.
Yeah. The third one, which was... Oh, gotcha. By the way, I didn't name my Striper album. It's To Hell with the Devil.
Nice.
Oh, to hell with them.
Right? Great album. So, my third one, Game Changer, like my man Rudy. Before These Crowded Streets.
Praise him.
It was a game changer for me. The whole band, just the idea of, like, I had kind of wore out my music, I don't know, phase or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, there's nothing really good out there anymore. Then I hear Ants Marching come on when I'm downtown Salem, Virginia, driving in my 88 Corsica. And then this drummer's just doing all this stuff. And I was like, who is this dude? And it was a game changer. And that's why I play so much like him, because he just had cool stuff. And I was like, well, I got to learn this. I got to learn that. I got to learn that. So, and that's what I did. So it has carried with me to this day. But before These Crowded Streets came out, that was
nice.
The summer of '98, and it was awesome. It was the summer of George.
And
I proclaim this the summer of George.
just for those who are recognizing the fact that Ants Marching was actually not on that record.
Nope.
It was on, I believe, on Crash.
Yeah.
But it's the last track on Crash, which then kind of feels...
It was on Undertable Dreaming.
Right.
Yeah.
But there was sort of like a... That's why I did 2 Dave Matthews records, because it was sort of like an era.
Yeah, for sure. And Crash would be in that era, too. And
nice.
And Busted Stuff. And but after that, I kind of...
My first exposure to Dave Matthews was Dave Matthews and Tim Reynolds.
Oh, yeah.
Like the acoustic performance.
Luther College.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
I was like, this dude is killing this acoustic guitar.
Right.
But
yep.
Anyway, what's your number 4?
Number 1. Well, number 4. Either way. Number 4 is Monsieur John Mayer.
Almost had him.
The Continuum album by John Mayer.
Oh, yeah. I ain't going to be mad at you for that one.
Why not freaking Happy Birthday then?
Listen.
As your favorite song.
Listen, like when I listen to that album, because I have to take breaks, obviously, between albums. But when I listen to that album, and the further I get into it, I'm just like, oh yeah. And then the other one comes on, it's like, bow, bow, bounce, and I'm like, oh, it's that dude at our gig.
Dude, one time I started playing,
bro.
This is like, you're playing for people who have drank just enough.
Yeah.
I start playing Brown Eyed Girl. Nathan and I have had so many funny moments, but this guy goes, ah! my girl, and just
blew his mind.
It was like,
which is so funny because it's like
the most basic song ever,
and it's not even for you; it's for brown-eyed girls. You know.
But this guy,
oh my god, that's amazing.
Yeah, and
me and Nathan would always look at each other.
It's like some just like run-of-the-mill song. Like happy birthday! Oh, happy birthday! Oh, I love it.
That's amazing.
A dude will forever live on in our minds.
That's amazing.
Oh my gosh.
My one pushback. So I told you guys I had JT on the vinyl.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right. We also have Continuum.
Yeah.
And my only, if I could talk to John Mayer, whom I know is listening right now, dude, he has 3 songs per side on the record.
He listens every episode.
Yeah, I know. He's an avid listener.
Yeah.
3 songs per side on the record. I'm constantly going over the record player. I have to reset it. I wish we had a single.
Well, it's a
45.
Yeah.
He also put it on 180 gram.
Which do
takes up more.
Yeah. They master at half speed,
Yeah.
so it takes up more space. I know.
But it's like
It's true.
3 songs, and then I got to go talk about
I know.
it. Anyway,
I know.
but I agree with you. It's a great record.
So my turn.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to go. This is kind of a hard conversation because, an hour from now, I'm going to be like, oh, God, I said the wrong
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
But I think of this
You
more
brought up
of,
JT. I was like, oh, Timberlake.
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But
So I think of like more influential albums. Like this is a sort of a milestone that changed everything after. That's kind of the way I'm looking at it. And I would say number 1 on my list is I'm going to do a greatest hits like you did. Is Leonard Skinner's greatest hits.
all right.
Now I understand why people might not like them or whatever, but for me, in terms of playing guitar, I literally can remember it just being like, if I ever learn how to play Freebird, you can kill me. Like I
did it. I did it.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
I said, so I'm done. And so I did. And then I got to play it at Father's Day for 12 Stone. And it was like it was the coolest thing in the world. And Danny Chauncey watched me and like came up and hugged me. And he's like, dude, I tour with Skinner and they don't play it that well. And I was like, I'm going to die.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like I'm actually going to faint from you saying this.
That's awesome.
And so like if you ever listen to me like welling or playing guitar or soloing, almost every single time you can hear Skinner. Like I just can't get it out of me. Like anything I do. If I play jazz, you can be like, was that a Skinner lick?
Right.
Like it's just kind of hard. So that's like my most influential from the early beginning.
Yeah.
But then there's one album that I heard, and it changed my life. I know this is dramatic, but quite literally changed my life. And it was Ryan Adams' Heartbreaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's got Oh My Sweet Carolina on it, and it has like Amy, and it has
so good.
To Be Young. But I remember listening to this album, I'm like, I didn't know music could hit like this.
Right.
Like it just got me. And I remember listening to it. I listened to it. And then I listened to it again with all the lights out. Because it's kind of a somber album. Sure. It's like I swear it's like I ascended to some spiritual world or something. And I'm like, I just can't believe music could do that for me.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was, to me, that was like unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it kind of is like, it's coming out now, but it sounds like it dropped in the 60s. It's like sick, like sounds like Bob Dylan, and I don't know, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Another one, this one you guys would have never guessed. This is the pop punk vibe. And honestly, it's not even my favorite pop punk band. But it was the one where I was like, it changed everything for me. And it was Sum 41, All Killer, No Filler. This had Fat Lip and In Too Deep, and like the whole album honestly is good.
Yeah.
But I remember listening to it and I'm like, I've never listened to an album that constantly made me in a good mood. It's like every 5 seconds you're just like, I feel better than I felt last song. Yeah. And it just changed everything. And the drums are just so massive and big. And one of the reasons I like pop punk is they have parts. So like there's a lot of musical parts. Yeah. So you have an intro, then you have a verse, but the verse is way different than the second verse because the second verse is a different part. and then the two choruses are likely the same, but then there's a very significantly different bridge. And so you just kept looking forward to these musical parts, and you're like, oh, here's my part. And
Right.
But anyway, like I said, if I was to pick pop punk band, I'd probably go more like Blink-182 or the Starting Line or something like this. But Sum 41, that album came out when I was in high school, and I saw them on TRL. And I was in shock. You know how because it's kind of a niche style of music, but I remember hearing, I was like, these guys get me. They get me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was there for the invention of pop punk as a teenager.
Well, dude, in that time, that was kind of everything.
Oh yeah, dude.
Like that wasn't like a niche then. It feels like a niche now.
You're right. Yeah.
But like then, it was like,
it was
no.
huge.
This is what's going on.
It was huge, and it lasted a while, all the way up to like Fall Out Boy and Panic at the Disco and all that kind of stuff. Now it's completely gone, and it is like kind of like, oh, you're a pop punk guy, cool, you know?
Yeah.
And so now I write all these pop punk covers, and people are like, dude, how do you do that? I'm like, I was obsessed with it. This is all I listened to.
It's a thing.
It's like, and it's like, it's all I listened to. So like that album changed my musical life. And then the last one I'll say, kind of, you probably could have guessed this one, but Led Zeppelin 4. My parents said that when I was a toddler, they would sit me in front of the record player and play Led Zeppelin 4. And they're like, so you were a rock star from a young age. But I hear that album, even to today, it'll change me. Oh, yeah. I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
It should be the greatest hits.
Can I tell you a funny story about this? So in college, I was at the library, this big library, and I was like in the music headspace of being a music major. So I saw this book. It said How to Play Rock and Roll. I never read it, right? But I grabbed it and I was just like, whatever, put it in my backpack. And I was over at like an FCA building, it was like Fellowship of Christian Athletes thing, and just make me and this like photographer dude, he looked like a Jesus, right?
Yeah.
I'll never forget this because I feel like what he said to me changed my life. He sees the book. He goes, dude, what is this? I go, I don't know. I just saw it. He goes, he just was flabbergasted. You don't need a book to learn how to play rock and roll, dude. Just put on some Zepp. And I was like, wow.
Dude, he ain't lying.
And it's so true.
Yeah.
Just put on some Zepp.
Put on some Zepp. That's freaking amazing.
I'm like, that's how you
It's
learn
so true,
how to
by
do
the way.
rock and roll.
It's so true. It's so true. Like, people have asked me all the time, like, how do you know so much about music? And I'm like, oh, it's very simple. And they're like, oh, well, tell me about it. I'm like, listen to as much as you can.
Dude, behind you, there's like 50,000 records.
Yeah. Listen to as much as you can. And you have no idea when you're writing music one day which Fleetwood Mac or Neil Young or James Taylor or Stryper is going to come out. But it does, because somewhere back here it's there.
Yeah.
And it's like, the only way I can tell you, it's the only reason I'm good at anything. Hey man, how are you good at guitar? I've been playing for 20 years. Oh, well, yeah, that'll do it. Well, hey, how are you good at what you do at your work? I've been doing it for 12 years.
Right.
Like, there's no other, you have to do.
I heard John Mayer talk about, he's obviously one of the best guitar players.
Oh my God.
He's so good.
Amazing.
But I heard him talk about how critical he is of his solos. He's like, when I listen to my solos, I'm like, Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan. Every little note he's playing is there's a ripoff. He's just pulling, like you're saying. And like when I listen to it, it's a cohesive solo from John Mayer.
Yeah.
But he's hearing all the stuff.
Yeah, he pulled it from here, he pulled it from there.
Yeah. But I think that's cool.
Yeah.
That he's that aware, and that it's kind of like it's like a peek into.
And even he's not immune to stealing from these people.
Exactly.
Because he's arguably, at least of the guitar players right now, he's the GOAT.
I think so.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
for him to have to pull from legends too, it makes me feel better about myself. With that, guys, we need to end this wonderful, wonderful episode.
It's been a blast.
Thank you for being our first guest.
Yeah,
Honestly.
Rudy. Get out there and get tackled.
I would also like you to pass the torch.
So I have been informed that we have a good friend of mine who's going to be guest number 2 on Twerk Ethic.
Yep.
And so we would like to welcome John Joyner to the next filming of Twerk Ethic as the guest number 2.
Yes.
I pass the torch to you, my friend.
Woo, can't
Don't
get better than that.
screw it up.
Don't mess up. Everyone knows you're going to,
Dear, maybe it was bad.
but don't. Don't embarrass me in front of all my friends. Honestly, man, it's been a blast.
Love you guys.
And I appreciate the whiskey. I appreciate the cigars.
Yeah, dude. It was awesome.
I appreciate the compliments. I appreciate the feedback. I appreciate the 10 million subscribers that you're going to give us.
9.5.
Yeah, 9.5. I'll take that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
No, it's
Nathan?
cool, man. Love you guys.
Any last words before I kill you?
Thanks for the sex appeal.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Well, levitated sex appeal. I mean, this show already has.
I squeeze a little more in.
Yeah. It smells better in here because of Rudy. It smells like lavender and carrots.
Yeah.
Bye.